Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Trident Talks. Thanks for joining us. This month, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, so we're doing a series of Trident Talks and charity events to raise awareness for mental health. I'm delighted to be joined today by Stuart Firth, who is ex-military like myself, also working in the cybersecurity space, and was diagnosed with depression and anxiety in 2013. So, Stuart, thanks so much for joining us.
No probs.
Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. So, as Charlie said, I'm Stuart. I spent almost 23 years in the Royal Signals. I was an information systems engineer, so computers and all that good stuff. And then 2013, I sent myself back to school. I wanted to pursue physiotherapy when I left the military, and I was sent myself back to do GCSEs to build it up, and so I could get into university. But I don't know quite what I noticed, but I was steadily feeling worse, just generally, just a general low mood. I found myself isolating myself away from what I'd normally do. I was a single chap. I was in a mess. I wasn't interacting with people like I would do normally. And then again, without going through my notes, it would have been second quarter Easterish time, I think, around 2013, where I was just overwhelmed all the time. I found myself just crying for I couldn't perceive a reason. And it was at that. And stupidly, I left it that late. It was at that point I said, okay, right, there's something's not right. So I went off to see the MO, the doctor. And I don't think I'll ever forget this, touch wood. But I'd hunkered down in my combat jacket, and I was trying to make myself look as small as possible. And when you're 6 foot and 100 kilos, that's not particularly easy. Anyway, I was desperately trying to avoid anyone, because I knew the second anyone spoke to me, the second I would try and speak, all this emotion, I could feel the back of my eyes or heart. It was awful. Anyway, went into the doctor's office. He asked me what he could do, and as soon as I sort of tried to say I'm not right, I just broke down, like proper Hollywood sobbing. It was not particularly nice. Anyway, went through that. He said, "Oh, I think you have depression. Have some tablets," and gave me the rest of the week off. And that was it. That was at that time. And then I had a sort of a rolling meeting with the doctor. I think it was every 2 weeks, and had my meds upped. And eventually I was on, I think, 250 milligrams of sertraline a day. And it stopped me feeling atrocious. It didn't stop the sense of the sense of overwhelming, I wish I was much better at English, the sense of overwhelming despair and emptiness that you feel. But it doesn't let you have any peaks either. So you don't have any troughs, but you don't have any peaks. And I was on that for a couple of years. I got posted away from that unit, and I ended up at the MOD in Corsham. This is where I settled. And because it was MOD, it was tri-service, it was a completely different approach to not only mental health, but to all medical things. I think that's predominantly because of the RAF. You've got to treat them gently. I went to see I had to go and see the doctor because I needed to keep my medication up. You can't just quit. Certainly not at 250 milligrams a day. Yeah. Anyway, so I got to Corsham. I went to see the MO. Everything was ticking along. I deteriorated a bit again, and I was signed off, or referred, that's the word I was looking for. I was referred to the community mental health team down in Tidworth, in bit further down in Wiltshire. And that carried on, got some talking therapy then. I ended up in front of the consultant psychiatrist. I stepped back. I was signed off of aggressively longer periods of work. And I went in front of the clinical psychologist, the consultant psychologist, and the occupational health team. We tried to do a return to work for me, and it was a massive floor plate. You know, there was maybe 150 people on this floor plate, all open plan. I was sat at my desk. I could just feel that heat behind your eyes. If you know, you know that heat where you know, at any moment you're going to start crying. There's no. I couldn't think of a single reason why I should be, you know. But anyway, so eventually what happened was the return to work. We tried. We went through. It wasn't working. I was still in a very bad state, very low mood. The consultant psychiatrist was alarmed at my rate of fatigue at the time, and he explained it to me. Sort of, you think of your resilience like a bank account. He said, so Monday morning you start work, you've got a nice big full bank account. Every day you take a little bit out. Every day you take a little bit out. Friday afternoon you're down near the zero, but you've got the weekend to recover, and that recovery puts you way back into the black. That wasn't happening for me. I was into the red by Tuesday, and then I was in the bones of my arse for the rest of the week. And so he suggested that I move off of sertraline onto an antidepressant that has now forgive me, medical people, because I might get the pronunciation wrong. He said I had to move on to something with a noradrenaline element. I don't know if it was a reuptake.
Sounds about right.
So I moved on to venlafaxine. So the target was to cut was when I was able to come off sertraline, was go on to venlafaxine. But pretty much after that, I was essentially signed off with a view to await a medical board. I started attending the Help for Heroes facility in Tedworth House in Tidworth. And it was, at the time, it was the Army Recovery Capability. I know that they were tri-service then, but they hadn't gone through all the full bits and pieces. And it's almost like a very, very extended resettlement. And as part of the Army Recovery Capability, I went to the Battleback Centre in Lilleshall, which is funded entirely by Royal British Legion. The government don't put any money into it. It's entirely funded by charity, and the Battleback Centre in Lilleshall, apparently it's where the England team trained in '66 for the World Cup.
Nice.
It's the National Sport College or something along those lines. Memory's a bit fuzzy. They had performance coaches, NLP type coaches, and we went through a week of. It was initially set up for adaptive sport for the guys coming back from Iraq and Afghanistan with sort of, you know, traumatic injuries and life-changing injuries. So it was centered primarily around adaptive sport, but the mental health thing started coming more of an issue. So they had a load of like performance coaches, NLP type people, and it was. I think that really for me was a turning point. They introduced me to a few practices. They introduced me to mindfulness and meditation. They introduced me to, and if anyone hasn't, if anyone hasn't read this book, The Chimp Paradox by Professor Steve Peters. He's a Northeastern guy. Yeah, it's phenomenal, and it explains. He's a clinical psychologist, and he's dealt with like Bradley Wiggins and top athletes, and he basically talks about how the brain works, and why you react in the ways in which why you react in the ways you do. Anyway, so I got myself that. I read that, and it made a lot more sense to me about what my brain was doing, what my mind was telling me. Meditation helped, and then some of the other bits and pieces as well was with regard to the neuro-linguistic programming, was changing my inner dialogue. So it was things like not setting yourself up for failure. So instead of saying, I should go to the gym today, that's pretty definitive. I should do this. If you say, well, I could go to the gym today, if you don't go, and you told yourself you should, you failed. Whereas if you could go, well, yeah, I could have done it, but I didn't. So it's not like a full stop. It's not such a catastrophe to your inner monologue, your inner narrative. Wow, I am rambling. You were right, Charlie. It's just all coming out.
No, it's good. It's good. You need to kind of do that. And I think the more information.
I'm trying to keep it chronological as well, which is awkward. Yeah. Anywho, so the army recovery capability in Tedworth House was phenomenal. The Battleback Centre in Lilleshall, it's up I think Staffordshire way, and then I think there was a final 2 army recovery weeks set aside back down at Tedworth House, and I think it was the last week. There was a team from Barclays came in, and they were fantastic. They were part of. Now I know that Barclays and the military have a strong bond. I don't know if this is still a thing, but they had something at the time called the After Programme. Please don't ask me what it stands for, because I can't remember. But we had 2 days with some quite high up knowledgeable business type people. There was, if I remember, there was 2 guys and a girl, and it surprised me because she was a really young girl, but she had a English degree from Cambridge, so she was coming around helping us with our initial CVs, and I am Stuart, I do computers, whereas this Cambridge English grad would come in and she just smashed. It was amazing. But they went through interview practice, they went through cover letters, CVs, just 2 days. And like I say, it was the whole sort of 3 weeks of army recovery capability. It was really like an extended resettlement phase. But one thing that will stick with me is, because I was in such a dark place at that point, they were coaching me. They had Veterans Agency. I can't remember the name of the organisation. There was a woman there was coaching me and taking me through how to fill out government PIP forms, so the permanent incapacity payments, because at the time my clinicians didn't think I would get back to sort of normal operation because I was in such a hole. And then medical board, and yes, you're being discharged because you're operationally unviable. And yeah, I mean, that was I mean, I'd already done 20 plus years in the military at that point anyway, so I knew that my time left was going, and I'd already started in my mind going through the resettlement, I wanted to do physiotherapy with going back to school, but the cognition had been so affected that I still managed to get a B in maths at GCSE. So,
Well, that's an achievement. I definitely probably couldn't do that. But it's good that you had that support network with you. I think clearly we could talk for hours around how you think it started. What was the main cause? I mean, 23 years within the military is bound to kind of take its toll on that. I think what would be really good to hear is what would be your advice to someone who's probably going through something like depression, anxiety, or some sort of mental health illness now? Because I know some people, they have different thoughts on like medication or actually speaking about it a lot more and having that support network, or both. So I've kind of gone through it myself as well.
Yeah.
From the military. What would be your advice to people? Like, what's the key indicators to look out for if you're starting to get overwhelmed, or if you are suffering? How can people identify that?
I think that's probably it. Is if you're feeling. So I think possibly, everyone's different, and I'm not a clinician, so this is not this is not the be all and end all. But I think if you start withdrawing a bit from your social, what you're doing, what you would normally do after work or at a weekend, if you're making excuses to isolate yourself, if you're feeling isolated, even if you're surrounded by friends and family, for me, that the sense of isolation that I experienced, regardless of who was around me, was crippling. It was awful. Mm-hmm. I think if you don't take pleasure in the things you used to take pleasure in, lethargy. If you stop feeling a sense of accomplishment when you've done something. For example, now for me, if the thing that really gives me my biggest sense of accomplishment, where I can step back and say, yeah, excellent, I've done a good job, is when I'm tinkering on the bike or the car. I've got my hands dirty with engines and brakes and whatever.
I think,
and I would. Sorry, go on, Charlie.
Oh yeah, I think that routine of, as you say, you kind of play around with your engines or the bikes or the cars. You identify that one thing that does actually make you feel semi good about yourself. Routine is so vital. When I was kind of going through it as well, it strips you right down, right? It was like, okay, without digressing too much, it's get yourself a simple thing to do at the start of the day. As soon as you've done that, tick, whether that's waking up, making yourself a cup of tea, and then just build on that. But in terms of identifying it, I think that, as you say, the second you start to not take pleasure in the things you like, or you're isolating yourself from life, essentially, that's when you need to kind of take a look and identify it. And I think the point where you said before, and I think this is quite common within, dare I say it, males, obviously not limited to.
We are atrocious.
We're so bad
awful at talking about our feelings.
Exactly. And the second you sit there and someone asks you how you're doing, and the second you sit there and be like, well, actually, I feel a little bit like annoyed or whatever, or upset, and the second you can feel it all welling up in the back of your head, and then you feel like, actually, gosh, like the floodgates could probably open here, and then you stop. That's when you know it's too late. So it's obviously not just males that kind of do that. But it's at that point, you need to kind of be doing something a little bit different, whether that's actually saying, well, actually, no, I'm not happy with this, or I need to kind of do different things. I think that's what people need to look out for.
Yeah, you're right. I think, sorry, go on.
No, after you.
I was going to say, you're right. It's that floodgate. That's I think that's the best analogy from my point of view, is you've got all that it's building up. You can feel your eyes get hot. It's bizarre. But like, oh God, here it comes. Yeah.
And then it's made worse because the bias is, once you're sitting there thinking, oh gosh, the floodgates are about to open, you sit there and think, no, we can't do that. I can't let people see me. The floodgates open.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Oh no, it's. Oh, I've stripped that out, mate. Everyone's seen me. Everyone's seen me crying now. I'm well over that. And excuse the ironic mug.
You definitely planned that, which is great.
It's my favourite mug.
So moving on then, obviously you went into a career in security, which is actually probably renowned to be probably a little bit of an introverted career, right? It's not very social. It's very like IT focused,
Yeah.
I guess. Forgive me for stereotyping it. You've said to me before that certain companies that you work for have all been great, which is fantastic to hear.
Yeah.
What would your advice be to an organization that has a staff member who they think might be feeling a little bit down? What kind of pointers could you take away from your previous employers to give to others out there?
So I think first and foremost, you have to let people know that it's, and I apologize for the words. It's almost like business beat word bingo, but it's okay not to be okay. Everyone has bad days. Unfortunately, sometimes those bad days, they just roll on for some people. So I think the first thing would be to say, look, it's okay not to be okay. Everyone has down days. Unfortunately, some people spiral. And I think for myself, I was never able to find like a root cause. And I've actually stopped analysing that, but that's a different topic. Know that it's okay. Know that your team are there to listen. Again, speaking from experience, I don't know if you can back me up on this, Charlie, but just knowing that someone's there for you to vent at, essentially, you won't do it initially because you've got to put your hand up in the air and say, yeah, something's wrong. But once you've put your hand up and you've said that something's wrong, just take half an hour, have a coffee, just let someone talk and vent. And if they need to cry, let them cry. Give them a hanky. It's horrible what's going on in there. It's truly awful. And do just know that you're there for them. You're going to support them because I suppose one of the other really worrying things or confusing things about mental health is it's not like breaking a bone. You're not going to be in a pot for 6 weeks and then start your rehab. I was diagnosed in 2013 and I still medicate daily. I don't know if I'm going to be on these for the rest of my life. So I think you've just got to be there for them. You've got to let them know that it's okay. You've got to let them know that that they're the important ones. They're the ones looking after. They're the ones taking care of the customers or taking care of the business, and or doing whatever it is your business does. And without them, the business can't operate. So you need to make sure that they know that they're valued. They know that they're supported.
I think you're right. I think for obviously awareness with mental health being raised significantly within organizations, right? And I think you're right. The key thing you said there is someone who's suffering is not going to put their hand up or like proactively come to you, really. It's up to the organization or someone's line manager to be able, or the team, just as a collective, to be able to identify someone that may be struggling and maybe pull them to one side and encourage them to be like, look, if you are, it's okay, we're here to talk. I think the initial point of it is, as you say, talking and let someone come unload for like 30 minutes because it's so helpful. Obviously, I think it's only fair that I share something personal because, as you have, the first time I went to therapy after like blocking it up for multiple years as a submariner, I literally spent like 30, 40 minutes just crying the whole time. Yeah. And that was so emotional and exhausting for me. But then I stepped outside of the office and then I started smiling because I felt so good. And that's probably the first time I smiled in like 2 years. So that's just hopefully that portrays the benefit of actually just communicating. I think you kind of summed it up well, to let your team know that you're there to support them and it's okay not to be okay. Again, I guess we can actually talk for hours about this. It might be good to kind of do another follow-up session on maybe like routines people can follow and things like that. But I think, is there, to summarize, for people that don't know, do you have one word which could probably describe everything that you've gone through since 2013?
Roller coaster.
Roller coaster. It's a good word. I think for me, I think it's just the best word to describe it is probably dark. I think it's just dark.
Oh yeah.
But then there's other words, obviously, but I think there is always a way out, and I think it makes you, whatever happens to you makes you stronger. So
there is a way out, and you've got to do, and if you're suffering, I've planned my suicide twice, because I was that in a hole. It was almost physical pain. It was just all encompassing. But help is out there. People are there to listen and help and aid you. You may be, like you say, dark. You may be in the tunnel, but you've got to turn that corner to see the end. God, that's a cliche. You have to do one more brave thing, and that's just ask for help. And for anyone out there that's feeling like shit and hasn't gone to a doctor, talk to a doctor. If there's anyone out there that's spoken to the doctor, reach out amongst your network, speak to people. Don't be embarrassed. I suppose I can. What we on now? So it's 9 years. I've been through the mill now. I can come out. I won't say I'm out the other side, but I've been through enough now not to be embarrassed about it, or have any hang-ups about it. It doesn't define me, but unfortunately at the moment it's quite a big part of me. It's something that I have to deal with daily. It's not helpless. You're not in a helpless situation. You are not useless. You are loved, and so you've only got to ask, and people will jump at the chance to help. Yeah,
I think it's some really good advice there, and I just want to thank you for sharing all of that. I know sometimes it's quite hard to kind of open up, but hopefully everyone kind of finds this a little bit insightful and gets them thinking, actually the person to my left or to my right might not be okay, which again is okay. So I'm sure if anyone's got any questions around what they're experiencing, I myself am more than happy to entertain a conversation. I'm sure you are as well, Stuart.
Absolutely.
Not limited to the ex-forces community, but Stuart, I just want to...
Anybody and everybody.